Welcome into Duckbin TV's coverage of the 2020 Eastern Classic. It's the 90th annual tournament in memory of Frank Barber. I'm Brian Ewing, joined in the booth by Pat Rufo.
Good to be back, Brian.
Jim Kaufman.
How you doing?
We're following a couple of bowlers on this first shift of the Eastern Classic. In particular, we're following Chris Krueger. That's not him on your screen right now, but this is the set of lanes he will be on. Through 9 games, he has 1386, averaging 154.0. If we look at scores from the recent past, last year the winner averaged 155.67. So he's right up there on pace to put himself in contention for this 90th championship. Jim, you're going to be following him pretty closely today. What have we seen from him so far today? He's bowled 3 games.
Bowling well. First ball, definitely on the head pin, in the pocket quite a bit. Have seen him miss a few marks. He missed the 10 pin in the 10th frame of his 3rd game today. That would have put him into the 160s, but he unfortunately missed that, and I heard him mumble as he walked by that he actually missed 2 singles that game. So I don't know if maybe he's feeling the weight of the moment or just happenstance, but he's in the ballpark. He's in the conversation. He's probably very easily going to be the first weekend leader, but it's just a matter of if he can put up a big enough score for it to hold over for both weekends.
Thanks, Jim. Pat, you're going to be watching Buddy Turner and Brian Reynolds pretty closely. They're up there on the leaderboard. Maybe not totally in contention for the first weekend's lead, but they're certainly up there. What have you seen from Buddy and Brian so far today?
Well, Buddy and Brian, they're hitting about average. Where they're at in the tournament at the 138, 139 level. That's what they've been throwing most of the morning so far. I know Buddy just, I believe, opened this last game with a strike. So he started off his second 3 for today's shift in a very good manner. These guys are, looking at a huge deficit with 3 games to go. Pretty unrealistic. You're going to make up 140 or 150 pins, but they could put themselves in position for other prize money in the lower half of the top 10.
All right, and it's time now for your first glimpse of Chris Krueger on your screen now. Ooh, tough 9-10 split here.
Yep. Sounded like he hit a little heavy and had the 7-9-10 up for a flash, but still has the 9-10.
He hasn't seen a lot of those breaks today. He's gotten away with a few balls off the head pin. That one was you usually throw a pretty good ball when you leave those pins like that, the 7-8 or the 9-10.
If I'm not mistaken, guys, he was trying to make that one.
I think so, just based off his body language there. Maybe trying to atone for the spare he missed in the 10th of the last game.
Yeah. So,
Buddy Turner's up.
10 there. Yep, over to you, Pat, for
on
Buddy
a
Turner.
A little bit slow left approach. He's had that come up and bite him a couple times earlier in the morning. The ball just crosses over the head pin, gets over into that 3-6 pocket, and leaves himself with a makeable but difficult spare leave.
Yeah, Turner, through his 6 games, had 826. That's a 138 average.
Stayed right there. He's maybe up a pin or less than a pin up average-wise this morning. He did convert that difficult spare, though. So he's starting off the 4th game of his block with a +10 and a load in the 2nd.
And this is our first true look together at Brian Reynolds of Virginia. Through 6, he had 839, so right around where Buddy Turner was. They're bowling together.
Goes a bomb right there.
Beautiful ball.
No doubt about that one.
Welcome to the telecast, Brian.
Back side of the pocket for him and took everything out in one swoop. No messenger necessary.
All right, folks, so this is the 10th game for all these bowlers. You'll see on your leaderboard, but nowhere on your camera or any of your screens here, Jesse Deach. He's another bowler that we're tracking, 1297 through 9 games. We're anticipating that he is going to be at least near the top of the leaderboard for the next 2 games. So for games 11 and 12, we will have a camera shot of him. You'll notice on today's telecast that our screen looks a little different than in Eastern Classics past. We have a main screen, the big camera shot there that we'll be commentating on for you. But if you have a bowler that you are interested in following every single second of their tournament, then you can see the 3 camera shots at the bottom of the screen. To your left, we're on lanes 1 and 2. That is where Brian Reynolds and Buddy Turner will be moving to next after this game. In the middle, that's lanes 17 and 18, where Chris Krueger is currently bowling. On the bottom right-hand side of your screen, that's lanes 19 and 20, where Brian Reynolds and Buddy Turner are currently participating. So we've got Krueger up now on the left side of your screen. Jim, you're following him pretty closely. He's got 10 through 1 box. Remember, he left the 9-10 last time. Almost converted it. Was definitely trying for it, but settled for the 10. See if he can recover here.
Off the left side for 4. A little bit easier to make than cutting the side for 2, but nonetheless not an easy spare leave.
Uncharacteristic, I would say, so far.
Yes. Can't have too many of these. Plays it safe.
Yeah, he's really going to want to forget that box there.
Yeah, he has a comfortable lead as far as this shift is concerned, but as you stated in the opening, Brian, last year's average was 155. He's not there yet. We got Buddy Turner, however, off camera, off screen, off the main screen. Brian Reynolds left another 9-10 on a pretty good hit.
That 9-pin looks to be a little bit farther left than its normal spot should be.
Shifted over to
that's what
the
Brian's looking at. It's like the 8 3/4 pin.
It was a pretty decent pocket hit, but it didn't give him the double that he was anticipating.
And gets the wood for 10.
Holds 10, and you mentioned that 155 average last year, Brian. We haven't seen, however, someone in the first weekend put up that big of a number in quite a while. So that may add some stress level to the bowlers next weekend coming in knowing you have to get that high. Usually it's not. Traditionally, the score is not up that high coming into the second weekend. Buddy Turner just goes off the side. Again, he's been struggling with the pocket, but he's been getting away with a couple of hits, leaving him makeable spare breaks. The second ball's so critical. And he cleans another one up. So he's taking advantage of quite a few balls off the side, but the second ball in this game is obviously the most important one.
His ball trajectory is very similar to Ron Pelletier, coming in from the corner like that, almost flirting with the left gutter, but his ball has a little bit more turn to it, a little bit more hook than Ron Pelletier.
Yeah, Ron is more of a direct missile to the middle.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely got a few miles an hour on Buddy's ball, but they're both coming in from that left corner.
So a little bit of a lull in the action here for our top bowlers on this shift.
Jim, I don't know if you want to comment on some of the interesting deliveries we're seeing on camera right now. There's some northern folks that throw the ball just a tad different than us southerners.
I think you might be referring to the French-Canadian, the Quebecers that have come down in numbers for the tournament.
Yeah, we'll chat about them a little bit more in a second, but Krueger is here in his third box trying to recover from that. I wouldn't say it was a disaster of a last box,
It wasn't
but
a good box.
Forgettable.
yeah.
Just get it out of your head. One of those, right?
I'd say that was a good recovery there.
I would think so. And
Let's take another look.
he has been leaving a lot of 10 pins going into the 1-2 pocket, but on this one, he initially leaves the 10, but Wood comes over and trips
Bounces
it
off
out.
the wall.
Yeah, get off the wall. And that was another 1-3. That was another backside pocket hit. So bowlers are getting away with some balls that aren't quite perfect, but they're getting some nice breaks, taking advantage of them.
All right, so we got Buddy Turner now on the
Working on yet
left-hand
another
side of your
mark.
screen.
Yeah. Continues to mark. He did throw a strike in the first box of this game. Came back with 2 balls off the side and got away with both of them. Now he's looking to load this up and keep this game going. He needs a big one.
Oh, didn't get the 10 to kick.
Good
But-
load on that spare, though.
Certainly looking good so far on this pair.
It's very smooth. This pin should be just designed for his shot right here. He goes right
Mark
at
Hammett
it.
just made a crazy shot off on the side of the left side of your screen. Not sure what it was.
Ooh, just touched
Wow.
it. I didn't know if he was going to make that, but
I don't
it
think
fell
he did
down.
either.
So it fell down, so I guess it counts.
All right. Brian Reynolds now up on the right in the white T-shirt.
Brian has a slight lead on Buddy heading into this 10th game, and Buddy's out of the gates with 4 marks and taking a bit of a lead on Brian. And again, they're almost a full game behind our leader in terms of pins. So one of them is going to need something real big in order to make up any ground in 3 games.
And he
Bowlers
converts.
these bowlers are taking advantage of every spare right now. Not missing many.
All right. Well, we've got a moment waiting for Krueger to come up. We've got an update on Jesse Deach's score through 6 frames. 6 frames, he's got 79. So he's a little off pace at the moment, but he still has 4 frames
4
to
frames to try to fix that.
get 2 or 3 marks. He's got 3 spares so far, 9 fill, 7 fill, 6 fill. We'll try and keep his score a little bit more up to date, but so far through 6, 79 for Jesse Deach.
Even Jesse, Jesse's almost 90 pins behind our leader, so he also in only 3 games to do it. He also needs something big.
Yeah, no room to have an average game.
Right. You see
He's
number
gotta-
6 there, Chuck Paris. He had that big game, which put him up on the board. He wasn't there earlier in the morning. He had a 199 game earlier and put him right in the mix.
So it appears Krueger's group is moving a little more slowly here.
Here's
So-
Buddy Turner once again on a mark. Well, he tried to body English that one out of the middle, but he didn't quite. Takes the 7 load.
He's a
Tell
little-
when he let go, he wanted it to move, and it didn't move. He has been converting many of these difficult spare leads. This one, if he gets between the 3-4 here, he's got a good shot at making that 10 pin.
Nice try, and we'll shift on over to Krueger now, filling a strike from his 3rd frame. A little heavy.
Yeah, Messenger almost took out those 2 pins, but leaves him with a spare break anyways. See Brian Reynolds right there on your screen just bomb away, so he's keeping himself in the mix.
That was a no-doubter from Brian.
And Krueger is showing a little bit of A little bit of nerves, maybe. He's getting toward the end of the tournament, knows he's up there. Every ball gets a little tougher, I think.
Absolutely. Let's take another look at that first ball from Krueger.
If you notice here, we're looking for the knee bend stays down through his delivery.
Tripped out that
Heavy, had
9.
yeah.
It's big.
Had some wood come across, but in front of the 2-4.
Update on Jesse Deitch's score. He just had a 10 box. So he's at 89 through 7.
Big finish in that game. At this point in the chase, he cannot afford a 120 game. He's got to get to the 30s or 40s at minimum.
So again, things getting a little tense here for Chris Krueger. Only 47 through 4 frames. You know, it's crunch time here. You're in games 10, 11, and 12 of the Eastern Classic. That's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're the one putting up the big score. You don't know what you have to beat, so you've got to get as many as you can.
Let's keep an eye as far as Chris's mechanics. He's been left. He went off the side for 4, left side for 4. He missed that 2-4 on the left side. Let's see how he looks when he's delivering the ball. On his first ball, that last frame, he had a nice deep knee bend, stayed down through his delivery. I wonder if it's a matter of him maybe his approach too fast on those other balls, and he's pulling up. But let's keep an eye on that.
We'll follow Krueger here on our main shot, but you can follow Brian Reynolds in the bottom right of your screen. You're right, Jim. Again, pulled left.
Big break.
I think would have been a spare leave, but definitely a little easier with just the 10.
Just the opposite happened to Brian. He did not get the extra. I take that back. It was a long distance messenger, but it took out the 5-pin, leaving him with a makeable spare break.
Chris just has to clear a little deadwood from the gutter there before he can shoot for his spare.
This isn't canopies, right? You can't throw it at deadwood.
Some of us would like to, I think, but
Some cases.
not allowed.
Brian Reynolds, I'm sorry, just missed that triangle in the corner.
Converts, but again, Jim, I think if we take a look at the replay here, you're going to see him do something in his delivery to pull it left.
Yeah, I don't know if he was a little
Buddy,
faster
turn her
on
up
that
on
second ball. Yeah, his sliding foot kind of angled to the right. I'll have to check and see if that's something he normally does, but it was kind of wiggling a little bit, so I don't know if that unsureness of his slide makes him pull up a little bit, but he's able to stay down just enough to cover the spare.
Yep. Again, if you were watching on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you saw Buddy Turner leave the 5-10. Gets one more.
Tough break for Buddy on that ball. Jim, you were just mentioning his slide. I did overhear Chris talking earlier about some sticking or something dragging, so he may have that in his mind as well.
Could very well be. But those are the types of adjustments that you have to make. You know, you're not going to have the same slide from lane to lane, from pair to pair, and sometimes conditions change within the center. Just if it gets hot or
Right.
cold, the temperature can affect your slide or the.
Particularly here, Jim, this is a all wood house.
Right.
Makes a huge difference. Many of these bowlers are used to synthetic, at least parts of the lanes, even if not the whole lane and approach. So the real wood has led to some change of strategy for some of these bowlers.
You need to be able to make those adjustments not only to conditions but also to yourself, to your own mechanics. If you realize you're doing something wrong, to quickly be able to make that necessary adjustment.
All right, so we got Buddy Turner up here on the right-hand side of your screen. This group is moving pretty quickly. In fact, they're 2 frames ahead of Chris Krueger's group, which is just to the left. While we're waiting for Buddy, we've got an update on Jesse Deitch. In the 8th frame, he spared, so he has 99 plus in the 8th. Apologize for the way that's being displayed on the graphic on screen, but he does indeed have a 99 in the 8th on a spare.
Yeah, we're pretty sure he didn't go 1 and 9 for the spare, but
Buddy with a
spare nonetheless.
Buddy with a nice pocket hit, leaving himself a very makeable 2-pinner. 5-8. Get the ball between the 2 pins. Let the ball do the work. Buddy plus 30 through 6 and converts yet another spare. He's been definitely making his spare shots this game.
I believe his only opens this game are the 2 splits.
He had 2 splits. Yep.
And we'll stay here with Brian Reynolds.
Man, he
Much
likes,
better ball.
He likes that lane. So another bomb for Brian on lane 19.
While we're waiting for Krueger here, update again on Jesse's score. 9 fill on the spare. Missed a single for the 10. All right, so
Alright,
he's
so-
at 118 through 9. Again, a little problem displaying Jesse's score, but 118, 10 box in the 9th. As we watch Chris Krueger trying to fill a spare from the 5th frame. We'll take another look, Jim, but again, it looked like he pulled it a little left.
He was heavy on the pocket. He was more towards the pocket this ball, and if you watch his foot slide is straight on. So maybe that allowed him to stay down just long enough to get into the pocket, but he was heavy.
Picks up one more. I don't think he was shooting for that split there that time.
And it looks like Chris is definitely concentrating on the 1-2 pocket. Haven't seen him cross over to the 1-3 yet.
We'll switch back over to Brian Reynolds. Again, this is big screen TV viewing for you. Put this on your big screen, and you can follow all 3 of our main cameras along the bottom of the screen, never missing a box of any of these bowlers.
Reynolds on another strike, attempting to double. And he has the double this time. We haven't seen many back-to-back strikes this morning, and that was really actually 4 great balls in a row from Brian.
Seemed like he knew it on that one too. Held his follow through up
Yes.
a little longer than he needed to.
Kind of like draining the 3 in the NBA. Kind of showed you the
Yeah, count it.
follow through, extended follow through.
So Turner had jumped out to a pretty healthy lead against Reynolds if they're going head-to-head this game, and Brian has come all the way back now to take the lead.
Oh,
Turner
little
just-
light there.
Yeah, he's been getting a lot of that. I've been watching Buddy most of the morning, and he's been getting a tremendous amount of extra pins. Very helpful.
He's not throwing it too hard, and with his ball, even if he's light in the pocket, his ball is driving into the pocket, so he's getting a lot of that side-to-side pin action.
Yeah, keeps a lot of pins on the lane.
Right.
all over it.
He's absolutely covering almost every spare he's attempted that's been, what we consider makeable. He's covered it.
Yeah. Important box here for Krueger up on our main feed. Ooh, just enough to avoid the split there.
You see the 5-6 very often. That was an interesting leave.
I think he almost picked up the strike if that 5-pin had
just
fallen just slightly differently.
Yeah.
Right.
He was just a tad light on that head pin.
You thought it might. But yeah, getting light to the left.
All over it that time. So he puts himself in good shape here to recover this game, I would say.
Right. Only 15 above his box after 6 frames. I'm sure he's thinking about marking out to get back to the 140s, 150s.
Right. And again, if you look back at our most recent results from the Eastern Classic, Winning averages have been 155.67, 154.92, 153.08 the past 3 years. So he certainly needs to maintain that 154 average if he wants to be in the mix come the end of the tournament.
And once again, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, those all happened on the second weekend. So if he puts a number like that up weekend one, that's going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on the second weekend bowlers for sure.
We got an update on Jesse Deitch's score, 135 for game 10. So that puts him up to 1432, 143.2 average. So I don't think we would say he's really in the mix here as far as taking the lead in this tournament.
He would basically need somewhere around 400 his last two, right, to get himself into contention.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Minimum 375, minimum.
Right, just to get to the 1800 threshold.
I mean, it's Jesse Deitch, so I don't think any of us would be
Oh.
shocked if he did that, but certainly,
Surprised, but not
putting
shocked.
himself in a tough position here.
Right. He is up against it.
All right, so again, it looks like we're going to have Chris Krueger and Buddy Turner and Brian Reynolds up all around the same time. We're going to keep our focus on Chris Krueger as our leader, but you can follow Buddy Turner in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Krueger on a spare. Gets them all to group around, but does not get the strike.
And a wiggle.
We'll take another look at that one. Yeah, heavy on the head pin, but finding a lot of success here. Half an inch here and there, that could have been a double these past two frames. All over it. So that's another spare for him. Pat, you were watching Buddy Turner.
Yeah, he went off the side again, got himself a break, and then he had the 1-2 to make for spare, and he picked the one pin. So
Now, all right.
had a little camera difficulty there. Our executive producer just ran out and
Little hiccup there.
Took care of some
Brian just
business.
took care of.
Jim, I don't know if you can see what Brian did in that box as far
Yeah,
as
I just filled it in. I'm not sure how he did it, but he had 6 on his double. Got 3 more,
So
so
he-
9 on the strike, and then a 10 box.
theme of the pair over there has been either a bomb or off the side, and but Brian's got a 142. If he throws another mark plus in the 10th, he's in the 60s, and unfortunately, it's not quite enough. He's going to need something much bigger than that to keep making up ground. Oh. Right in front of you on camera. I don't know if you saw that, but it was for a third. It was the third ball, but he actually moved the pin almost a good part of 6 inches over to the right, and it did not fall down.
I thought it fell and stood back up.
All right, we'll shift back over to 19 and 20. See Brian Reynolds finish out this game. 127. Sorry,
140.
Reynolds has 142. He's looking at the wrong score there. Reynolds 142 through 9. So he'll certainly bump his average up a little bit here. Will it be enough to catch up with Jesse Deitch from this shift? Could be close. But certainly not going to catch Krueger.
see him off the side for 10. That's
Lucky
chop
ducky.
10, really. It was like do the 3-9.
You need those.
He gave it just the right amount of body English on the release there. Maybe experiencing either Lucky Strike is having an earthquake or someone is messing with our camera.
That's Steve Korick just adjusting the camera. No earthquakes.
And he's trying to shake it down with
Trying to shake the 10 pin over,
That 10
but
pin
that's a
over.
pretty solid
Good try.
bottom on that pin.
Yeah.
It still stood.
solid load for Brian, so that puts him in the 60s. And they'll either have a 61 or 62 following this ball. They call it a 162, a nice game for Brian Reynolds. Puts him at 14-16. Just noticed,
Get his cumulative score updated.
just noticed Chuck Paris there moving up.
You want to throw him up there because he was 547 his last three.
Yeah, Chuck Paris, 547 his last 3 games.
Yeah, I
Pat.
just noticed. I just said that. All of a sudden,
So-
the Chuck Paris is up 145 and change average. He's got 2 games to go. He's put himself in a little bit better position than Jesse's. He eclipsed Jesse and gaining on the leader.
Yeah, that's the nature of this tournament here, right? We can kind of try to predict who's going to be there at the end for games 11 and 12, but people come out of nowhere.
Well, 547 will come out of
Yeah.
anywhere. I'll tell you,
Yeah.
that's a huge 3.
Turner now finishing his game. 9 drop. Sorry, strike. Right,
Yeah.
while we were chatting, Pat.
Yeah,
Strike.
I know. Threw a strike 9.
Strike 9.
So he gets into the 50s. Puts him,
156 for Buddy Turner.
he's going to get into that 1400 club.
Chris Krueger now on your screen, coming off 2 consecutive 9 spares.
Huge ball. Ooh.
Not so good there.
And
Eh.
that might be why he doesn't want to shoot the 1-3 pocket.
I don't know.
We'll
That's-
take another look at that one in a minute, but it looked
Everything
like a
went-
decent ball.
They
But
went around.
Sounded light.
all right, 9 box there. It's about the best you can ask. We'll take another look at his first ball.
It was a little light into the 1-3.
The ball just shot
And-
through the gap and didn't do anything after it hit the head pin.
A lot of deflection. So everything just went around the 5, 7, and 10.
All right, so we'll kind of lay the groundwork here for our last 2 games. Chris Krueger, still not done with his 10th game yet, at 120 in the 9th. I think we would all agree that he needs a mark. That's going to drop his average down a little bit.
Either way, it's going to drop his average down. But just from a momentum mindset standpoint, you want to be finishing the game strong.
And also how far, 10 pins is another pin at this point on his average.
Right.
We've got Chuck Paris. We're going to try and get a camera on him. He's emerged here as one of the top bowlers.
Yep.
1457 through 10 games, 145.7 average. He just shot 547 for his last 3 games. So I think he's in the mix.
It's not too shabby.
And then we've got Brian Reynolds and Buddy Turner plugging away here, averaging through 10 games around 140, 141. So for you at home, the bottom left-hand side of your screen, or left-hand corner, that's going to be Buddy Turner and Brian Reynolds. On the far right-hand side of your screen, for the last 2 games, will be Chris Krueger. And we're going to try to get that middle shot changed over after Chris Krueger finishes up here. We'll try and get that on Chuck Paris and Jesse Deach.
Beach has Paris first box. Or, I'm sorry, yes, right.
We're just waiting for Chris Krueger to finish up this game here. Waiting for Mark Hammett to finish on the right. And now here is Chris's 10th frame.
Textbook.
Yeah, much better off in that backside pocket, don't you think, Jim?
By far the best ball we've seen him throw. Flush into the 1-2.
Didn't seem to have as much turn on that one. It was more straight over the top spin. Went right, dead nuts, right to the pocket.
And that might be a function of being able to stay down through the delivery, where he can drive through the ball instead of pulling himself body up and then end up his hand coming around
Well,
the ball to
you saw
put
the
more spin
difference.
that he wants.
You saw the difference in the reaction from the last frame. The ball went shooting off right through the hole. This time the ball went right through, took out the 5, and who knows what else.
Right. All right. Well, now 150's back in the back in the mix here. If you can throw another one.
Just getting to 140 is huge. This could have been a disastrous game, and he's got a shot to make good out of this.
Ooh.
No, he came back in the 1-3 pocket that time, and he got a better break.
He was a little bit heavier than he was when he left the 5-7-10.
Yeah, you saw the ball shoot off to the right through the hole.
Right.
So
Yeah,
he's
kind of a
much
flat
better off in
ball.
that one. He's much better off in that 1-3 pocket, it seems. Not a big deal there to miss a single, but 139 is not a terrible game considering the game he had.
Yeah, good save. He marked 3 out of his last 4 frames to get to 139 after only having 75 in the 6th.
Right, so that moves Chris Krueger to 1525, down to 152.5 average.
So Tom Shaw's still got work cut out for him, but it's at least the gap is closing, and he's not bowling yet. So puts Paris 68 pins to make up in 2 games for Chuck Paris to get ahead of Krueger.
Yep. We're going to stick with Chris Krueger as our main focus here, but again, we're still tracking Chuck Paris and Jesse Deach, who are making a little bit of move up the leaderboard. It's still going to be difficult for them to catch Chris, we think, but we'll keep up with them nonetheless.
So Jim, what do you think? The next 2 games, we got four bowlers right now. Really, maybe if you want to, well, at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 bowlers, all within 100 pins. One of them's going to have to go big, real big, to eclipse Chris Krueger the way he's throwing the ball right now.
Yes, and even looking from the top, if you're Chris Krueger, you shoot 300 your last 2, you're at 1825. It's a good score. I don't know if that's necessarily a winning score for the entire tournament. So,
Well, keeping on that theme, it'll be the first time in a long time that the second weekend comes in looking at a score like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
we were talking about this before we started the coverage today, but as long as we have been covering the Eastern, we can't remember a year where the first weekend score held up to win. Jesse, I think, finished second one year.
Right.
But I think we have to go back maybe as far as 2010 when Walt Brooks won from the first weekend.
Right. It was again, that first weekend score, if it's big enough, though, can really set the tone for the second weekend in terms of pressure and
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer of whatever that number is on the first weekend, that's the bar that someone from the second weekend is going to jump over.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So personally, I think it's difficult to win from the first weekend because you have so many good bowlers that are waiting to bowl until shift 5 in the second weekend.
Right. Shift 5, as we know, is always loaded with quality, not only quality bowlers, but there's more. It's
Right.
a larger shift, so there's just better chance for scores.
So I don't know what the holdup is here, but we're waiting for Chris Krueger's group to begin their final set of 2 games here. They'll stay right on 19 and 20, so you can follow Chris Krueger in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen.
Buddy and Brian are just about ready to start their 11th game down on 1 and 2.
We're no longer going to keep track of their frame-by-frame scores, but if you want to follow Buddy and Brian, they'll be in the bottom left-hand corner. We've also set up here in the middle of your screen now, we've got Jesse Deach. We know that Jesse started with a strike. But they're a couple frames in at this point.
Tough start for Brian.
And there's Jesse.
There's the results of a pretty good ball. He blasted everything up in the air and left the 5-pin standing there by itself. As a duck pin bowler would say, 9 drops are good. So Deach missed the single, made the 10.
And Jesse is bowling with his wife,
Good
Katie
friend, Chris
Deach,
Louth.
who is on your screen right now.
If you look down at
On
the
lane
bottom
12.
there, C Division, Jim. C Division. See the name.
All right, a little lull in the action here, but if you're following Buddy Turner, he's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Looks like Chris Krueger's group has finally started their 11th game down on lanes 19 and 20. This is a unique scenario here because if we showed you the entire bowling center, you would see a bunch of groups on lanes 1 through 12. Lanes 13 through 18 are empty, and then lonely group down on lanes 19 and 20.
Down on the
The
island.
group of Chris Krueger. And there he is on the right-hand side of your screen.
And bowling opposite of Chris Krueger on your screen right now is Mark Hammett with the backwards cap. Chris trying to keep his arm loose here.
Yeah, it's almost like they had a little delay between 10 and 11. That's a little bit of a kind of a bummer when you're bowling well. Not sure what happened with the transition. Maybe the balls would have been stuck down on 17 and 18.
But alas, first ball is finally here. Again, if he's missed it all, it's been left
Yeah.
pretty consistently. And he missed there, left.
Generally, he gets a spare break when he does it. It's, the only time he hasn't had a spare break is when he's gone up the middle.
You can follow Jesse Deach in the bottom middle screen. But we'll stick with Chris Krueger here, going for the spare.
Hey,
Converts, so he's
Yeah.
off to a good start in game 10.
out of the gates. Jesse went off the side. I believe he left the 1, 2, 8, 10, I want to say. Tough. Nope, no 10. Just the 1, 2, 8. Gonna push this right through the middle.
Oh, and he missed left.
He's got a unique little jump in that first step. Kind of sets the tone for the rest of his delivery. Gets the ball down there in a hurry.
Well, we'll check in down here with Brian Reynolds.
Brian got off to a really rough start. He had a chop 6 box in the first frame, so. And then that's even
Yikes.
uglier.
That 5-pin leaning?
That's a
It
nasty
looks like it,
two-
doesn't it, Jim?
He's got the 5, 7, 10 with another. Ugly.
2, 5, 7, 10.
And he converts this.
That's how you make it.
That's a nice shot.
It's almost like he knew he was on camera there.
Yeah, my goodness. Brian.
We are following Chuck Paris's score for you. He's got 46 through 4 frames. We're not able yet to get a camera on him. But if he's going to continue at this pace, then maybe we don't have to. But we'll definitely track his score. If he starts pulling well, we will try to get a camera on him.
Yeah, he's got a lot of ground to make up to get himself into contention for that 12th game. He's 63 pins is a tremendous deficit.
And he just had a 10 box, so 56 through 5. So he may be cooling off after that big 547 set he put together for his last 3 games. And Chris Krueger getting ready to bowl, waiting for Mark Hammett there, who chops through the middle. Again, you can follow Jesse Deach in the bottom middle of your screen. He also is cooled off a bit, 45 through 4. Chris Krueger is definitely the one to watch right now, though. He had a spare in his first frame. Not sure why that's not displaying on our graphic there, but 8 ball spare in the first frame. Looking to fill it here in the second.
It's a rough 7 for
See,
Jesse. Left the 6, 7, 10.
Got a little issue with something. It seems like he's got some grease or something slick on the ball. He had to clean it back up and reset for the approach.
Put our main feed here. Here's Chris Krueger, second box, filling a spare. Little light, nice little 3 in the corner.
He got away with another one off the side, or just barely reaching a head pin. He is focusing on that 1-3 pocket, however. That's been his bread and butter. And that's, what does Mike Labrie say? One of how many ways you can miss that shot?
There's so many, like
Oh.
19 or some, obnoxious number that you can miss that 3-pinner. The triangle. The tricky triangle.
That's
All right.
a tough shot.
We had alluded before to the Canadian bowlers that are on this shift. You'll see them in blue and red bowling shirts from the Quebec province, mainly, where they're bowling rubber duck pin is their main sport. Where same pins that we use, but they have rubber bands, thick rubber bands around the belly of the pins. And you'll see that the rubber duck pin bowlers typically throw a slower ball because the strategy is to keep as many of the pins as possible on the lane, on the deck, so that they fall into each other, knock each other over. You really don't need to throw a hard ball to score well in rubber duck. So some of them, I think, actually this bowler here on lane 20, you'll see him throw like a backup, like a reverse spin.
Oh, maybe we won't, Jim, because Jesse Deach is up. So we'll shift our focus for a moment.
Had a couple of tough boxes. Once again, off the side of the head. He's not on the pin this game so far. Definitely struggling. Both Deach and Paris are struggling in their 11th games. Just at this point in the tournament, though, you just run out of paper. You know, you gotta have something happen real big in the next 15 boxes for Jesse. Next 14.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing sometimes, guys, that we've got all these bowlers we're tracking, and our luck is they always seem to be up at the exact same time.
Isn't it true?
And then we have to wait a minute or two for action to resume. But Krueger, they're taking their time down there on lanes 19 and 20. Looks like our camera froze there for a moment. We'll go check that out. While we're fixing that, we'll go down to lanes 1 and 2. Our Buddy Turner and Brian Reynolds are playing.
Looks like Buddy's on a 9 drop and converts another spare. He's been doing that most of the morning. Very difficult to see the scores on there, but
I believe Buddy Turner's on the scores on the left lane on the top.
yeah, I don't see any dark marks.
So that might have been for a 10.
Yeah.
And then Brian is on the right, where he started open and then spare, strike, spare.
And again, Brian's in a position, 109 pins behind the leader with 2 to go. Very unrealistic that you're going to make that up in 2 games, but you never know. Something big could happen and put himself right back in the picture.
Chris Krueger with a 10 box in the third frame, so now he's at 36 after 3. And off camera, Chuck Paris, last 2 frames, spare strike.
So what we're starting to see right now, Jim, is this is a 12-game tournament, and you don't win it through 8 or 9 or 10 or 11. So these last 3-4 games of the day, you start to see the people that are going to emerge. You're going to see those are the bowlers that are going to have a shot. They keep the momentum all through all 12 games.
Yeah, need to keep the momentum going as the pressure increases. It's a hard combination.
Right now we're seeing all of our top bowlers struggling. You can see Jesse converting there. He's off the head pin for like the 5th or 6th box in a row, but he needs something big to happen in the last 3 this game. He's really in trouble with
that. Was only a second mark of the game after 7 frames.
This is Jesse's wife, Katie, up on the right here. She's averaging very nicely for herself, 128 average through 10 games, and in contention for C division.
Tom Shaw might have something to say about that, though.
He
He
might.
put up a
With
huge
he's got a-
902
he's got a-
score for his first block.
Monstrous set.
Tom actually bowled well at the North-South matches a couple weeks ago down in Maryland. He was carrying 150 for a good portion of that tournament. I think he
he's-
might have cooled off more into the 140s, but
Yeah.
he's figured something out as of late.
Nice time of the year to get hot.
For sure. The order of tournaments, the North-South Challenge matches in Maryland, then you have the Eastern, and then the men's and women's Pro Tour will be starting soon afterwards.
Yep. And of course, up north, both the Connecticut and Rhode Island Bowlers Association tournaments are going to be held, the tournament series finals.
So this is the shot. We've got a Chris Krueger at the moment. We'll try and fix this, but for now at least we can see Krueger just drop 9.
Well, I'm glad I don't have to bowl from this angle. Hey, no doubt about it.
He converts.
Right in the face.
We have a score correction for Chuck Paris. He did have a spare in the 6th, but then he went 7 fill 10 box. So our apologies there. He has 86, 83 in the 7th.
See Jesse's coming up on the right here, and I'm going to say it's desperation. He has 13 boxes left in this tournament, and he's probably going to need to mark in most of them if he wants a shot.
All right, Jesse on a spare here in his 8th frame. Light again on the head pin.
I was going to say he got away with one, but he didn't. Did get to the head pin on that box, but just a little too heavy to make it mix. Leaves that awful 9-10 spare. Not something you want to be looking at, right, Jim?
Absolutely not. One or the other, but not both.
Oh, he gave it a shot off the inside of the wall, but didn't quite come back.
We have Chris Krueger up here in the 5th, working on a spare.
It's like another 9 drop.
Another 9 drop.
I'm assuming the 7 pin isn't in the corner because I didn't hear anybody groan.
Nope, just the 10 here.
This is a pin that he has recently had a little bit of a struggle with. Not this time.
So he's marked 3 out of his first 5 frames of his game 11. All spares. And we're at that lull portion where we're waiting for the 3 bowlers we're focusing on to bowl.
As Brian was saying, it seems as if all of our featured bowlers are basically in the same cycle. So they're either all up at the same time or they're not bowling.
Pat, are you bowling the Eastern this year?
It's still up in the air, Jim. My back gave me a little bit of issues. I've taken a couple of weeks off from league bowling. We'll see how it feels next Friday, and it's a last-minute decision at this point.
So you'll have to pay the late fee.
Yeah. But if you had seen me Friday and Saturday, or Thursday and Friday, you'd know why. Walked all around Atlanta yesterday. My daughter was in the Olympic trials for the marathon, and gave my legs and back quite a workout. I'll tell you that.
And you didn't even run it. She's the one that ran it.
She sure did, and I tell you, it was brutal. You know, you go down to Atlanta thinking, hey, it's going to be nice, balmy. You know, we get down there, it's like 45 with a 30-mile-an-hour wind. It felt like home. It was brutal. It was a brutal conditions for the runners.
Jesse with a strike in the ninth. You saw on the bottom
So Jesse's in a
bottom shot there.
Yeah, Jesse's got a potential 150 game, but again, at this point, unfortunately that's not enough. He needs bigger. He needs bigger scores. He's got some pins to make up.
Katie breaks up the split, trying to get the wood over there to break up the 4-7. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. Now we're on Buddy Turner here on lane 1.
It's like Brian Reynolds has still got some marks strung together there in his game. Don't see a lot of action spare-wise or strike-wise for Buddy in this game.
Yeah, Brian's definitely out-inking him on the score sheet.
Yep, there's more dark-colored spots. Full boxes and half boxes.
Now we're waiting for Chris Krueger, 6 frame.
Pretty funny, Jim, how many different ways there are to score the game of duck pins. There are different ways to mark strikes and spares, and without the automatic scores, there's a lot of variety to the score sheets.
All right, and here's Krueger, 65 through 5, filling a spare. Almost.
Sounded like a solid pocket hit. Leaves just the 5, a tad light in the pocket. Same ball gets it. And he gets it.
Spend money on those singles. I've seen him miss, really only can recall seeing him miss one 10th frame of his 9th game, I believe. So 24 plus a hit in the 6th, up on his box. He's put himself in position to at least approach that 152, perhaps surpass it, put a little extra cushion on that score. Something for guys next weekend to give a shot at. Or Tom Shaw, who's happened to be coming up in the next shift, give him something to shoot at as well.
Here's Jesse Deach, coming up 100 in the 9th.
It's almost a must-strike situation for Jesse here, Brian.
Oh,
Wow.
close.
Extremely
Awfully close.
Messenger almost took out the 6 and the 10, but 10 still stands after a wiggle.
6 took just too much out of that momentum of that pin coming across to get to the 10 pin. Good ball. Very good, solid pocket hit.
Jesse's throws hard, but it doesn't seem to have the same velocity as years past. I know he dealt with some back problems.
Yeah, he definitely he had some surgery, I believe. He was out of bowling for 6 months. Struggled to throw the ball. Now he's back throwing the ball pretty well.
Over to Chris Krueger. '84 through 6, filling a spare.
He's just dropping 9.
Tried to run
Fourth-
that one down,
Fourth
but
9 drop in a row.
another 5 pin.
At this point in the tournament, Jim, he'll take those all the way out.
If you want to follow Jesse Deach, he's in the bottom middle, sticking with Krueger. All over that spare. No, not quite all over it, but hit it nonetheless.
Not there anymore. That's the important part.
And Jesse Deach fills his spare with an 8 to finish with
Like a 128.
128.
Paris had a
128.
140. So neither of those bowlers had the game they really needed there to make a dent in the deficit. May not grow, but it's certainly not going to come down. And right now, Krueger is at 33 plus a ball up in the seventh. 3 boxes to go. He's more than likely going to go past that 40.
And after we entered,
Continue to see the dark spots on, was it Brian Reynolds having a pretty good game down there on lane 1 and 2.
rattled off 7 or 8 in a row after his open in the first.
It's like spare, strike, spare, 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 spare. Doesn't look like the boxes are quite full. Buddy Turner, just the opposite. I don't see anything on his side of the score sheet. Ball once again getting off to the side of the head pin. Hitting. Got a break, but just doesn't seem to be getting the ball square in the pocket this game.
Definitely struggling this game compared to last game. And 1 and 2 has a reputation of being one of the better scoring pairs, if not the best scoring pair in the center.
That spare.
Again, one of those lulls in the action here. Deach and Paris between games. Krueger still 3 frames to go. I'll ask you guys this while we're waiting here. Do you think if Deach and Paris stay where they are right now with their averages, will they be on the leaderboard next weekend?
141.8 for Jesse. No, I don't think he'll be in the top 10 at the end of the tournament. Chuck could be, but they each have a game left to improve on those numbers. Chuck's averaging 145 through 11.
So Brian, are you asking at the end of next weekend? Or?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't think 41 is gonna. I don't think 41 is gonna make the leaderboard. If it's in top 12, I don't think so. So many bowlers next week. Number-wise, it's very unlikely that 41 is in the top 12, but 45 is probably on the outside looking in, maybe from just a bit away. It's tough to average 45 or higher, but guys coming here next week are all capable.
Someone who will be on our leaderboard, most likely, after next weekend, it's Chris Krueger.
I believe that to be true. No 9.
Whoa.
No 9.
Yeah, no 9 this time.
And that was in the 1-3.
Those pins were up in the air, all in the back, up against the back. Great shot.
His last 3 first balls he's thrown was a solid 5-pin, and then 10 in the pit. So he's found something.
So we can say with certainty right now that he's going to maintain his average through 11 games.
Right.
Or improve upon it.
As long as he gets a fill on the strike, he'll be at least 150, but he's got 2 frames left, so
Yeah, he's
could
he
mark
simply
out for
needs another
170.
mark. Yeah, he simply needs another mark to do that. And the way he's throwing the ball right now, he's locked in. And the beauty of it, Jim, guess where he bowls the next game?
1 and no, he stays. That's
No,
right.
he's
He
staying
stays
right in this
on
happy
his
spot
pair
here.
for the last 2 games.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
It's always
That
nice to
is
get that
correct.
thing rolling on the pair
he-
you're going to be staying on for 2 games.
And he will not need to wait for, a lot of times when you move a pair, you have to wait for the people on that pair to finish up. Since they're bowling the last 2 games on the same pair, they can just hit the buttons and start game 12 immediately. So
Yep.
if he's in the zone, if he's in a groove, hopefully he can continue it into his last game.
See Brian Reynolds up on lane 2 right now, finishing up what appears to be a Beautiful game. Oh, the bomb from
Wow.
Ryan Turner. Man.
And he gets to stay on that pair for his last game, right?
He's going to love life there. I think he's got 8 marks in a row on the way out, or maybe 9.
We'll have to get an update on his score.
Check the score.
Sending sending one of our score trackers down on to lanes 1 and 2 to get some update on those scores down there. It's like a big game. That's what Chuck Paris had his 199 in lanes 1 and 2.
And Jesse starts his last game with chop of the 2-8. And converts it. Trips up the 5-pin.
All right, we'll head back over to 19 and 20 for. No, we'll wait a minute on Chris Krueger. Brian Reynolds up on lanes 1 and 2.
Yeah, he got
Not
light.
quite.
He got light, but he got away with it.
But quickly over to Krueger, who's on his own strike, looking to double.
Working on 4 marks in a row.
He missed left, right? That's been a trend. Not that he's missed a lot, but when he has missed, he's missed left.
Unfortunate
Brian,
to leave
down
himself
below
a-
on the left. Turner Reynolds converted that spare.
Wow. That was the 278, 279, 257.
Tough spare to convert, and it was on a strike, so they all counted.
And I kind of have to eat my words now, right? I said with certainty that Chris Krueger would maintain his average here, but only a 6 fill on the strike because of that errant second ball. So he's going to need another mark if he's going to maintain this 152.5 average.
Maintaining it is important. I think increasing it is even more so. Judging by the last 3 years' results, the way the pins seem to be falling, Jim, I think 155 is the number to hit,
Yes.
if not higher.
So if he wants to average 155, it'd be nice to have at least 155 this game.
Yep.
And hey guys, Reynolds, that was 181.
Wow.
It was a big game. I knew it had to be.
181. So
9
if you
mark,
look-
181.
If you look on the leaderboard, he's now up to 4th place, 145.2 average. So I think we're going to have to start tracking his score again because he's making a move here past Chuck Paris and Jesse Deach after 11 games.
He's actually tied with Chuck, ironically. Exactly the same score.
Oh, then I think our tiebreaker for our scoreboard here is a high game. So Reynolds' best game is just slightly higher than,
Right.
well, I'm actually not sure because I think Chuck Paris did have a
199.
199. So
That's okay.
not sure what
It's
the
fine.
tiebreaker is, but
And, looking at right now, without another ball, Krueger's at 1664. So he's got a 63-pin lead plus a box for this shift. That's a huge number to eclipse in one game. See, Mike Esposito from the next shift is also averaging 145.2. 3 bowlers at the same average.
Play that number in the lottery.
I know, 1452. Remember that.
Jesse Deach up now.
As a spare in the first. We're not keeping track of his score now, replacing him with Brian Reynolds, but he definitely has a spare in the first. So he's got 19 after 1. We'll keep an eye on his score. He's bowling somewhat in front of us, so we'll be able to keep an eye on his score and verbally pass it on to you.
Nope. And we just caught Chris Krueger there.
Sliding
Oof.
off the side of the head pin once again.
Disastrous last couple of frames here. Missed the spare leave in the 9th after going off the side. This time he's light and leaves the 4, 5, 7, 10.
Barring an incredible spare conversion, he's going to drop his average.
Indeed.
Oh.
So that is
147.
147. Yes, Pat. So he's up to 1672, 152.0 average.
So, creeping ever closer to Tom Shaw. Tom Shaw, without throwing a ball, has moved up closer to the lead.
And we're going to give you Chuck Paris update here.
Krueger and Crew are going to. Oh, I can't hear him.
9 in the first, spare in the second, with a 6-load 10 box. So Paris has 35 after 3.
Getting a little lull in the action. That's going to mean a lot of our top bowlers will be up at the same time. Again, big screen TV viewing for you today. We've got our main shot, nice and big for you in the center of the screen. But you can follow any of our bowlers on one of our featured pairs on the bottom. Never miss a ball. So follow your favorite bowler. We've got all of them there for you.
Ryan Reynolds and Buddy Turner are getting prepared to begin their final game of this first shift of the tournament. Brian coming off a impressive 181 game, moving himself up the leaderboard, but still many pins behind the current Chris Krueger.
Jesse with a 2 fill on his spare. Tries to convert it for the second time this game, but leaves the 4 pin.
So here we go. The first box of the last game of the tournament for Buddy Turner. Respectably averaging 138. Fortunately, too far out of the lead right now to even consider. Let's see, do we do something really special, right, Jim? Real special. Can it happen on 1 and 2? That's the question.
Well, everyone's got a big game in him, and it's being able to pull the trigger and do it at the most opportune time. And
timing's
now's the
everything.
time.
And at long last, the first ball from Buddy Turner, again off the side. He's having a lot of difficulty getting that ball to the pocket. Once again, another conversion.
Bends it in there for the spare.
I gotta say, guys, Chris Krueger's group is taking a long time between games. It's amazing to me that he's been able to maintain such a high level here with such a long break. I mean, we're going on at least 7 or 8 minutes now
Yeah,
between
right.
his last ball and his first ball of this 12th game.
It was worse last game, and maybe it did take a toll because he didn't hit the 152 average. He dropped down into 147 and struggled a little bit with the control. So maybe it is taking a little bit of a toll.
Now we see our first look at Brian Reynolds in game 12. Ooh, almost a strike there. He's moved up our leaderboard considerably after his last game, 181. He had, 9 marks in a row?
I believe he had 9 marks after the opening of first. He marked out.
Very smooth, simple delivery.
Ooh,
And
got
I
wide
jinxed
on
him.
that.
How many times has that happened here? Right?
I probably shouldn't
Plenty.
even compliment people until after the fact.
All right, so that's a 10 box to start for Brian Reynolds. Head over to check out Jesse Deach. 41 through 3 frames. So, decent start. Take away that 2 fill on a spare in the second box, and he'd be in really good shape.
Ooh, wow.
If you want to stay with Jesse, you can watch him on the bottom center. We'll go over to Chris Krueger, our leader. Heavy. Almost gets it.
This is going to be a critical conversion for him here after the way he finished last game. You want to start on a high note. You want to start bowling well right from the get-go. So let's see if he can convert this 3-pin.
Oh. Not there. Oh, I'm sorry. The screen froze there, so we'll try and remedy that.
Chris does cover it for a 10 box, but
We'll head over to lanes 1 and 2 for Brian Reynolds' second frame.
Coming off a missed single. See if he gets the reward. And not quite. That always goes, Jim. When you miss a single, it always goes.
right, it's supposed to be a strike. It's supposed to be automatic. But now sometimes you can't advance to the next level until you complete this quest of making the 5-pin.
There you go.
Which he overcompensated and missed to the left this time.
So that's a disappointing start to game 12 for Brian. 2 really good first balls and nothing to show for it.
Dealing with some technical difficulties with the camera on Chris Krueger down on 19 and 20, so we're working on that. Brian Ewing specifically is working on that. Here's Buddy Turner on lane 1 after a spare in the first. Well, we're seeing 2 loads and missed singles so far in this 12th game. This is the most pressure-packed game of the tournament for everyone, game 12, especially those in contention. And sink or swim. Buddy only with a 4-box, so he's got 16 after 2 after marking in the first frame. That was a nice ball by Matt Krueger on lane 3 there, Chris's brother. It's local bowler Dean Vertifo. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm sure I just butchered it, but Jesse with a 9 drop. We'll have to go back and see how he finished the 4th frame. I know he had left the 2-7-8 in the 4th. And he gets enough of that.
So I
Off
believe
camera
Krueger.
here, Chris Krueger just missed another 1-pinner. He left the 7-pin and missed it. And
It's two of our
Right.
top bowlers in this shift, both coming off of missed singles, consecutive boxes. Turner converting a spare there for a mark in the 3rd frame. Here's Brian Reynolds coming off of consecutive 5-pin misses and hoping to get that 10th pin to fall, but not going to happen with that ball. He left the 2 along with the 7 and the 8. Very difficult spare break.
a couple of ways you can make this. Not easy. Either way, not easy. Misses everything.
Yeah, I can't get it to come out. The other camera went down. Looks like there's a problem with the capture card. So,
Finishes up with a 9 box. Here we have some of our Quebecers here in the red shirts, Sun Lanes 2 and 3. I think it's about a 6 hours plus or minus trip to come down to bowl the Eastern. I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 have made the journey. Jesse looks like with another 9 drop. Jesse Deach leaves just the 7. And after we finish Jesse's 6th frame, we will update Chuck's score. Chuck Paris. Jesse converts, so he is at 79 plus through the 6th. Chuck, 7 box, 9 box, and then finally a spare. So Chuck is at 61 plus in the 6th, so he's struggling, as is everyone, it seems, this 12th game, shift 1. Chris Krueger, light into the 1-2, left the 5, 6, 9, 10. So he's having a very rough start to his 12th game. Needs to catch himself here in a hurry. Wow. And he just converted. I don't know if you can hear the crowd, but he just converted the 5, 6, 9, 10. The 6-pin was the last to fall. Huge conversion for Chris Krueger after missing singles. the first 2 frames and looking like he was going to open 3 frames in a row. So let's put that spare up there for him in the third.
Brian Reynolds just once again had a spare opportunity and off the side of the head pin. It's just not happening for him this 12th game right now. 9 box for Brian in the 4th.
Chuck Paris with another 9 and 1. So he has 71, 81 plus after 7. 80 plus.
Reynolds had a 9 box for Reynolds in the 4th. Thank you.
Brian Reynolds with 4 opens in a row. So as hot as he was in game 11, struggling game 12. Another lull between our featured bowlers. So I can't stress enough, though, how much of a huge conversion that was for Chris Krueger in the 3rd frame, making the 5, 6, 9, 10. Totally turns around his outlook on the game, I'm sure. He's getting up now in the 4th to fill that spare. Unfortunately, having to give you the play-by-play radio style, working on the camera. And solid in the 1-2. Pin comes off the wall, tickles the 5, but gets a 9 fill on his spare, leaving just the 5 pin. And this is going to be another huge opportunity for him. If he can make this, I think all is right up in his mind. He can feel more confident going through the rest of his game, but he needs to make this first. And he's got it. So big turnaround for Chris Krueger after missing spares or 1-pinners in the first 2 frames. Spares in the 3rd and 4th. So he's got 48 plus through 4. Trying to put up a big score for the first weekend. Break 1,800. Try and go as far over 1,800 as possible. Try and run and hide as much as he can from those second weekend bowlers, namely shift 5 bowlers. And Chuck Paris with a strike. So after struggling his first 5, he's on spare strike in the 6th, 7th, and 8th. So trying to put a game together, game 12. And looks like we might have the camera back for 19 and 20 for Chris Krueger. So we'll be able to watch him finish his 12th game. Great work. Keep working on that camera shot. Let's go back to Jesse Deach.
You just turned it off. Hit display.
To get updated on Jesse's score here.
That was a 10 box for Jesse. I believe it was a 7 load 10 box for Jesse on that frame. Not going to be nearly enough to make the move up the ladder.
Updated Jesse Deitch scored a 107 after 8. Chris Krueger. It's like he had gone off the head pin on his first ball.
Steve, just hit the button. Just hit it, and then that's it. So unfortunately, due to some of the technical difficulties we have here, we've lost the camera shot of Brian Reynolds. But we do have a shot of Chris Krueger back, so we'll get a chance to follow our leader for the last 5 frames.
I'm not so sure Brian cares right now about our camera. He's having a heck of a struggle in his 12th game. He came off that huge 181 game and just hasn't been able to put it back to put it back together and go on a streak.
How many times have we seen that, you know?
So often.
Quite often.
It's just so hard to come off a big game like that and keep it rolling.
So as we pick up Chris Krueger's second half of his last game, he has 65 through 5.
Yeah, he's
Missed 2
definitely-
singles, then made a tough 4-pinner, then made a single, and then went off the head pin in his 5th frame. So 65
Yeah,
through 5.
Jim, he needs something special for the last 5 boxes because that average he can't afford to let that average slip any further.
It's almost, he wants to mark out his last 5 frames here, or at least 4 out of the last 5
Yeah, I
to
would
get to
say 4 out
150.
of 5. You got to get to 150 or 160. Got to maintain that 52 minimum.
Here's Jesse Deitch, left the 2-4 after his first ball. He converts, and we'll quickly go over to Chris Krueger. Light into the 1-2 again. And he's facing the 5, 6, 9, 10 again. So can he make it twice in one game? Has to be thinking that. No, just one here.
I hate to say it, but this pace has definitely caught up to Chris Krueger. He just seems to have lost the momentum that he had going earlier in the day. This slow pace may have a lot to do with that. It's been really dragging over there.
So Krueger not on pace to finish his 12 games with a score that would have won the Eastern Classic in any of the past
He needs a little bit of help right
20
now.
years,
Ryan, to get to 1,800.
25
He's
years.
starting to look
Yeah,
at
he needs to
1,800
find-
being an obstacle.
He needs to find some strikes if he's going to have any hope of claiming victory.
Well, Jim, he needs 2 more marks minimum to get to 1,800. I mean,
Right, just to get to
Yeah.
1,800, right. But I'm thinking beyond that to
correct.
to contend for the championship, to contend for the title.
You're right. Championship contention is. I don't think 1,800 is going to cut it.
No.
The last time we had a score under 1,800 win was 1975. Gene Fairlett, 1794.
Is that when the pins were wooden?
No, I'm pretty sure they were plastic. I'm sure pretty sure they had converted to plastic by then. So definitely an off year for whatever reason. But that was many moons ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, we got a little lull here that 1973, 1974, 1975 all winning scores were below 1,800. In the years after that, like I said, none below 1,800 to win. If you want to go into the 60s, that's when we get to some of the lower winning scores. Krueger now stepping up on lanes 19 and 20.
Chuck Paris finished his 12th game with a 129.
Another split.
This is starting to really struggle now. That average could actually fall. He might not even be average leader after this shift. Tommy Shaw might have the average lead coming into his shift this afternoon.
But you get to this 12th game, and the nerves,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
The
yeah.
nerves are there for sure.
Well, Brian, while you were running around getting everything back in order, we were talking about, this is a 12-game tournament. It's not we said not 8, not 9, not 10, not 11. You got to bowl all 12 games, and right now that's starting to jump up, take a couple of these leaders down a couple of notches.
Yeah, we see it every year. Somebody throws a really good first 6 games. They may be able to maintain that average. Oh, a nice shot by Jesse Deach there. Too bad it was not for a spare.
Oh, you
but
fooled me there. Didn't see the 10 pin there.
but they maintain that average for 9 games, 10 games maybe.
Right.
But inevitably, their average always falls down
Yeah.
to in the high 140s. It's that one person, it seems, every year who can maintain
50 or
12
higher.
games,
Yeah, it's hard.
150 or higher.
Not often does it happen. How many times have there been several bowlers over 150? It hasn't happened often.
So Jesse Deach finishes the tournament with a 133 his last game.
Last year there were 3 bowlers over 1,800. Same thing in 2018. 2 in 2017. 3 in 2016.
2 or 3 is really
yeah.
the number. You
Yeah.
don't get more than a couple to 3 bowlers that actually eclipse that 150 average. It's a difficult task.
And now it's come to the point for Chris Krueger. He needs to mark 2 out of his last 3 frames to get to 1,800.
Yeah. Never saw that coming.
Going back to the 9th frame of last game, he was as recently as the 9th frame of the last game, the 11th game. He was looking very solid, and then opened his last 2 frames, had the 6 fill on the strike, opened in the 10th, missed 2 singles to start this game, and now he's at 83 in the 7th. It can turn around in a hurry. You have to maintain it for all 120 frames of this tournament. That's what
Really
makes
was
this tournament unique.
Really was a huge turnaround. That 6 fill, that was a 4 fill 6 box.
Six fill 10 box.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was-
6 fill went
yeah,
6
six
on
fill
his
10
first
box.
ball, missed it, and then picked it up.
Started
for 10.
a bad trend for him.
He's only had 2 spares since then.
All right, so let's get a lay of the land here. We have 3 bowlers who have finished their 12 games. Chuck Paris, 1726, 143.8 average, currently good for 6th place. Jesse Deach finished with that 133 game, got him to 1693, 141.1 average. And then we got Chris Louth has popped onto our leaderboard with a good last game. What did he hit that last game? Chris Louth finished 169, 129 for 1666, 138.8 average. Still have Turner, Reynolds, and Krueger to finish.
And here is Krueger.
Oh,
what a working pin that was.
Can we get
that went from split to strike.
Wow. That was
Blink of an eye.
That pin did a lot of work, didn't it?
another light hit. Was looking at some type of a split, but some duck pin magic, and he's got a strike. Huge strike. Can't stress enough the difference between leaving a split and having a strike in that frame there. we might have to think back to that ball there, depending on how he finishes. Just how that 6 fill in the 11th frame on his strike was a tide turner. This might have turned the tide in the other direction. It's so important though to be working on a strike too, and maybe the pins, the deadwood kicks around and he leaves a 1-pinner and he covers that. So great, he's got a spare, but now he's got a strike. You can really take advantage of that, maybe double or triple, and the story's changed all over again for him.
Right, but that double is going to be necessary here to maintain that 152 average.
Right.
Last year, if he ends up holding this 152 average, that would be good for 3rd place only. So needs a double just to catch that spot potentially.
Right.
He's got the first one though. He's got that first strike, so
He needs a double somewhere in here. Even if he doesn't double in the 9th, he can throw 2 in the 10th. But that would mean he still gets a spare in the 9th. So sure he'd prefer a strike right now. We have 2 of our Canadian brethren here bowling on 19 and 20. And we have an update on Brian Reynolds. Unfortunately, it's not much of an update, which we had better news, but he's got 97 in the 9th. So we'll bring him up to speed.
as you can see here, Chris Krueger's group is, again, we've been harping on it for a while, but bowling extremely slowly. There's just one other group that's still playing right now, and that's the group with Brian Reynolds and Buddy Turner. So very, very slow pace. You know, we're approaching 1 hour and 45 minutes for 3 games so far, and they still have 2 frames to go. So 2 hours, 3 games, that is a pretty slow pace. But, you know, sometimes when you're bowling with a leader like this, you're in his group, you don't want to step up on him, you don't want to distract him in any way.
And he might be taking some extra time himself.
Exactly.
Trying to slow the game down, slow your mind down as much as possible. I'll tell you right now, though, Mark Hammett, who you see on 19, he's having a great game. He had a triple. He's got 140 in the 8th. Just left the 5-pin here. Covers it up. I wonder if he's considering re-entry. Doubt it, though. I believe he's from Virginia, so you'd have to come back next weekend if you wanted to bowl again. We've only had 1 or 2 people re-enter.
In the history of the tournament, because you have to pay double your entry fee in an open tournament like this to re-enter. But nonetheless, here's Chris Krueger. Extremely important ball. Needs a double. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Really almost caught it there. He needed a double, right, to get close to that 152 average.
He
But still needs a spare here to keep that as high as possible.
Still convert it and double or triple in the 10th, so.
All over it. So 112 plus through, 113 plus through 9. He was filling that strike. So he's looking at a potential 130 at the moment. Gets a spare or a mark in the 10th. We're looking at 140.
He can max out for 153, which would put him at 1825.
He's flirting with 1800 here for sure.
He should have 1800. Now that he's got 2 marks out of his last 3 frames, it's just a matter of how high over that can he get. Tripling for 1825. Good score. I don't know. Just kind of jumping ahead. That would give him a chance for it to hold up for the entire tournament because we have another weekend to go.
Historically, it would not.
There are 2 shifts this weekend, 3 shifts of bowlers coming in next weekend. So
Yeah, historically, just projecting out here, 1825 would be good most years for second place. Some years third or fourth. So really depends on the competition, but you want your name up there in the top 3 at the end of the tournament. He knows what he has to do, I'm sure. It's just going to be a matter of getting up there in the 10th frame and executing.
And personally, as far as maybe projecting a winning score, I feel like that as the center's been scoring better this year. I don't know if that will relate into the scores for the tournament, but he seemed to be falling well.
I don't know if you asked Chris Krueger about lanes 19 to 20. I'm not sure he would say that.
Well,
Caught a couple of splits here.
yeah, up until 11 frames ago, his first 8 frames on this pair. Remember, we were talking about how big of an advantage it was going to be for him to be able to stay on this pair for the last game, but that turned in a hurry. But he's righted the ship here the last 2 frames, going strike spare to stay in contention.
Buddy Turner has finished his 12 games. 1640 is his total, good for a 136.7 average. That's on the leaderboard now, but that certainly will fall once we get the 60 to 70 bowlers or more who are playing next weekend. Just waiting on... Oh, Brian Reynolds' score has come in, 1703, good for a 141.9 average. Again, that'll probably fall off the leaderboard as we welcome in some more bowlers next weekend. But here's the man of the moment, Chris Krueger. Definitely needs a mark. A strike would be excellent here. Again, a little heavy. Good for 8.
Lucky not to leave a split. Ball definitely sounded heavy in the pocket.
It gets him to the 1800 without even making the mark. So see how much more he can add on to that.
Love to check his heart rate right now. Automatic.
So it's going to keep him average-wise ahead of Tom Shaw's pace for the time being. It's going to put a number up there that these guys next week are going to look at. A little intimidating, but not overwhelming. The 156, 157 would have been something that he started with.
Strikes here for 141. That'll give him 1813 for the tournament. So he's definitely over 1800. Definitely over a 150 pace. 1503 with a ball to go. $18.03 with a ball to go. My apologies. 1803 plus this ball.
Ooh.
It's 5.
So that brings him to 136 for this game. And overall to 1808. 150.7 average. So guys, as we begin to reflect on this first shift, first group of bowlers have completed their 12 games. Really, we have Jesse Deach, Brian Reynolds, Chuck Paris, who've all put up a pretty good score, right around 1,700 plus or minus, 10 or 20 pins. Good weekend for them. Then we have Chris Krueger, 1808, 150.7 average. He put up a really good score. I don't think he would say he had a perfect weekend, but an exceptional weekend nonetheless. So that'll be it for us today from the Eastern Classic. Stay tuned to the Duckpin TV channel on Facebook and YouTube. We'll be bringing you Shift 2 later this week. Coming up on Shift 2, we've got the likes of the bowlers you see with 6 games there: Tom Shaw, Mark Anastasi, Mike Esposito, Brandon Dominique, Sal Nastissi, Colin Dunnick.
Former winner.
So lots of pins out there to get. Lots of great bowlers to come. in our next show and the following shows. So we hope you join us, like and share. That's the best thing you can do for Duckpin TV and for the sport of duckpin bowling. Like and share, and get other people to like and share. So for Pat Rufo, Jim Kaufman, Steve Korick, and Chris Gano, I'm Brian Ewing, signing off. We'll see you next time on Duckpin TV.